Good evening, everyone. I'm going to call this meeting to order. It is about 6:07, September 25th. This is the meeting of the Planning Advisory Board. Can everyone hear me? Thank you. I will read a roll call. Melanie Hartwig Davis.
Present.
Lawrence Blevins. Edward Evans. Van Mason. Elizabeth Rossworth. She's online. Dawn Stolfus.
Present.
And myself, Gus Kurtz. With 5 members present, we have a quorum. I'd like a motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Elizabeth, if you can hear me, turn your.
Aye. Aye.
Any nays? The agenda is approved. I need a motion to approve the minutes from September 18th.
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Minutes are approved. Before we get started in the meeting, I'll provide a little bit of context on the Planning Advisory Board. There's a lot of folks who may not be familiar with our work. This board is a volunteer board of 7 members, and we are appointed by the county executive. Each member comes from one of the 7 council districts. We make advisory recommendations on master plans, zoning maps, and the capital budget and program. Tonight's agenda is a public hearing on Region 9 draft plan and the comprehensive rezoning maps. We'll start with a brief overview of the planning process from Eric Ketterman, a senior planner with planning and zoning. Eric, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, everybody, for coming out tonight and giving me time to the Region 9 planning process. As Mr. Chair said, my name is Eric Ketterling. I'm a senior planner working on the Region 9 plan. Before I get too far, I do want to give a special shout out to all the NSA team members from the Region 9 team that are here in attendance and online. So if you don't mind just raising your hand real quick, give a round of applause, everybody. Thank you all. Appreciate it. So a little bit of recap. Last week, we had our briefing from a staff to the Planning Advisory Board, where we gave a little more information and providing some examples of what is in the draft plan, as well as some specific recommended zoning changes. Tonight, I'm going to give a brief presentation that focuses on what is and is not changing holistically, as well as an overview of the process and timing. Given the main purpose of this meeting is for public comment, I will be brief, but really encourage you all to go to the Region Hub site online. So as we get this pulled up, there we go, thank you. This is a screenshot of what the Region Hub site will look like. When you go to the aacounty.org/Region 9, all this information is at the top of the page. Here you can see the draft plan, the recommended zoning changes, as well as a web map viewer. I highly encourage you all to read over all of this, take a look at this. The map tool online, you can see all of the recommended changes of what is being recommended for zone change and what is not. So as I showed last week, I wanted to give a holistic view of the zoning in Region 9 of examples of what is changing and what may not be. Here are the change statistics for the region. In particular, if you take a look at this and you see it, a zoning category is missing, that means the zoning category is not currently in Region 9 and is not recommended to be in Region. So as you can see, for example, R22 is not on this list. That means R22 is not recommended to be in Region 9 and is not currently in Region 9. The one big point I want to point out to this slide is the open space, or the OS. This is the greatest increase of the zoning district in Region 9. And you can see there is an increase of over 1,100 acres of the open space category for Region 9. While you can take a look at some of the residential zoning districts, specifically RA, R1, and R5, those show the greatest decrease of zoning. So essentially what that means is we are decreasing with our recommendations that you can see online. There's a decrease in residential zoning, but an increase of open space. So part of this information came from a 2024 floating capacity analysis. That analysis showed that the existing zoning today could accommodate the future populated projected growth for the region. So we do not need to upzone anything to meet the 2024 floating capacity analysis. Everything that was zoned in Region 9 currently can accommodate any future growth that would occur. But given all this information, I want to point out that generally speaking, not much is changing. Zoning recommendations align with what is currently adopted today from a general standpoint. Most changes that were actually made were the consistency changes that I mentioned that we talked about last week. For the timeline, just really brief, late in 2022, we started this process. We did community assessment, a background analysis, and a lot of research behind the scenes. Well, we then transitioned to the Stakeholder Advisory Committee, where we had meetings and public outreach opportunities to really help create a vision, create draft strategies, and ultimately the final draft plan for you tonight. Throughout the whole process, as mentioned last week, there have been a lot of opportunities for public input, including tonight, where you all can provide your comments, your suggestions, and your thoughts towards the draft plan and draft voting. As you can see, we are towards the end of the process, but there's still a lot of opportunity left to be involved and really make your voices heard. Tonight is one of those opportunities, as well as you are able to provide online written comment as well. So if you're not comfortable coming up tonight, or you're not too sure if you want to come up here and talk to everybody, you're more than welcome to provide any comment online at any time between now and October 9th. When we get to the county council process, it's going to be very similar. You're able to provide public testimony directly to the county council and provide it online as well. And ultimately, everything until that point is only a recommendation. The PAB, SAC, and staff are only providing a recommendation. The county council will ultimately make the final decision on everything before you tonight. And again, this just kind of reiterates that point I made. Where we're at in this PAB process, last week we gave a PAB briefing, hearing, and where you can continue to write the online comments and provide your input that way. And October 9th, that's when the comment period closes for Region 9. November 6th will be the PAB deliberation, where we're going to be able to hear what the PAB recommendation on the final plan, or on the draft plan, I'm sorry. And then ultimately, we will send that draft plan with any revisions directly to county council, where you, the county council, and anybody who wishes to review that and provide input is able to do so. And we anticipate that being early next year, early 2025. And with that, I am done with my presentation, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Eric. So once again, I want to thank the SAC for all their hard work and their recommendations. And also all the members of planning and zoning that have really worked hard on this. To give you an idea, there are CD, which is change the zoning request. for this region, there are currently 133 requests to change zoning. That is the process that was, you fill out the forms and send it in, and then go to the meetings and so on. Tonight, we're going to open up for public hearing, and we're here to hear you. Each speaker, and there's 20 people that signed up ahead of time, and there's about 15 that signed up tonight. We want to hear all of them. So you will be afforded 2 minutes per property request. And what we've done is we'll call on you, and if you're talking about the same property, we don't need to hear 5 people to tell us the same thing. So make sure that if somebody has already talked about a certain property and you're going to say the same thing, then we want to just move on, because we really want to get out of here, hopefully no later than 9:20, because at 9:20 they're going to cross out. So I'll call on three persons at a time, and you can come up. We'll have the microphone here, and you can speak. Please reference what property that you are talking about, the address, and if you have the zoning request number, that would be helpful. If you are on Zoom, we will provide you permission at that point to unmute, and then you'll be able to do the same as if you were right here in the room. Tonight, we are not going to make any recommendations and do any discussions. That's at a later meeting. Tonight, we're here to hear you. So at this point, I'm going to call 3 names, and will those people get ready to come up and speak. The first is Caleb Royer, Peter Quirk, and John Richard Green. Caleb?
Hello, my name is Caleb Royer. My wife and I are the owners of 25 Leland Road in Edgewater, Maryland, on Warehouse Creek, next door to Warehouse Creek Marina. My property has an existing use as a light commercial marina. We've submitted an application for MA2 zoning because our property has been used as a marina for over 50 years. Our property has non-conforming structures, historical slip rentals, and we requested a zoning change for consistency between the zoning and the existing uses. OPZ has reviewed our application and recommended rezoning from R1 to MA1B, which is helpful. It recognizes the historic use of the small commercial marina, and it's consistent with the existing use. Additionally, the change is consistent with Plan 2040, the goals there, and the SHT agreed with the OPC's recommendation. We're grateful for that consideration, and we ask only that PAB and the OPC consider our originally requested MA2 zoning, because MA1B does not permit the existing covered wet slip boat storage we have, and it will require us to spend thousands of dollars on consultants and permitting to get a non-conforming use for our existing structures or tear it down. Since its initial determination, I understand that we received additional information considered, specifically the application of our neighbor Bob Sisser, owner of Warehouse Creek Marina next door, also requesting MA2 zoning. And given that we have no space nor inclination to expand development, but only MA2 zoning allows our existing structures, we simply have to you all consider our original MA2 request.
Thank you. Mr. Quirk?
Yes, good evening. I'm here from the Edgewater Soccer Park community. My name is Peter, and I'm specifically here about a proposed commercial area behind the Thomas funeral home on Route 2, the one that you see when you come across the bridge. There had been a proposal earlier in the year for a 3 or 4 acre commercial area extending behind that funeral home down to Warehouse Creek. And where this marina is actually one of the marinas just as bad. Unfortunately, this whole area, both the commercial, is covered in dense, mature trees. And therefore we were opposed in our communities because it would contribute to runoff. It would alter the very, it's a semi-rural character in that area provided by the trees. We have since learned that this was withdrawn in early September, and it did not show up in the map at that time. Later, just a few days ago, it reappeared in the form of a white line in a circle. And it was explained to me that this was because the revised application had come in late, very late. But I would like to obtain some clarification that we are not going back to the original proposal. None of the commercial development in the last 25 years on this side of the bridge on Route 2 has involved the destruction of trees. And we'd like to keep it that way for obvious reasons. It's a very valuable peninsula. It comes with a lovely backdrop when you come across the bridge and a very nice invitation to the camera. Thank you very much.
Good evening, John Green. I actually runs a small area of land at the Edgewater some years ago. I've been part of the Lee Farm Conservancy, which is an organization made up of 5 communities in the downtown Edgewater area, approximately 2,200 houses. We monitor and enforce covenants over the Lee Farms property by the shopping center and the airport. I'm here representing my community, which is Edgewater Beach. We're here in support of what the Office of Planning and Zoning and also your group is recommending 3 parcels along Route 2 next to the Callis Funeral Home. They're seeking zoning change from C3 to C4. We think that that's inappropriate, as have you. We're very supportive of not agreeing with the change. As we all know, everyone here knows that coming down into South County, everybody comes through there, and that is a neck. And we certainly really don't need things that constrict that neck any farther. We know, and everybody here knows, that almost certainly on a daily basis, maybe an hourly basis, there are backups through that area. And by granting pre-zoning and allowing greater uses would be detrimental to everybody here. So thank you for
Thank you. So I'll speak. So the next 3 would be Joan Scott,
Joan Scott,
Jim Chandler,
Jim Chandler,
and Aaron Benson.
and Aaron Benson. And just a reminder, folks, when you come on down to the podium, please give your name and the property or the change number you're talking about. So for example, when I grabbed this microphone, I should have said, hello, my name is Jessica Levy, and I'm with the Office of Planning and Zoning.
Years I have lived in Edgewater Beach shaded section, and similar to John Green, I'm here today to mainly support the. Is that better? My name is Joan Scott, and for 42 years I've lived in Edgewater Beach, Maine. I'm the chair of the Reed Farms Conservancy. We've done a lot of consulting and so forth over the last 20 years. I'm actually here tonight to support the decisions that have been made so far regarding the South River Eye Care, the Mammoth marijuana place, and the Cal's Funeral Home. We agree definitely our area with the decisions that have been made by the groups. And the one thing about that I do want to emphasize, and I'm sure there's some agree with me, whatever happens with the building, we have to take the traffic in Route 2 into consideration. Because it's right now really, really bad. Maybe instead of traffic from, where you have to plan your days. Don't go north between 9 and 11, and you don't come south between 2:30 and 5:30. So I think these changes, and one of the reasons I support them, will help to minimize, but will help to not increase the issues on Route 2. So that's what we are. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm Jim Chandler, I'm the president of Daleville Community Properties, a nonprofit that was created to save the old Westerner Market at 1000 Main Street in Daleville. And this is for zoning for CZ R9C RGSB 003. In June, we got a notice that what we had to do in our business plan was it's a 1.6 acre mixed use R2 C1 property. The piece that we want to keep and maintain is the C1 portion, and we're going to share the R2 piece off to pay for the renovation on the market. In June, we got a notice that they said that we requested a small area to be zoned C1, like the market is C1, so that we have enough room to handle any runoff and stuff like that. In June, we were notified that they were going to do the entire 1.6 acres as C1, which worked out with the prospective purchasers of the land, the Westerford Sailing Club, who their property is MA2 or MA3, and when they're going to buy it and expand their property to be able to store boats on, and then the middle lot as well to solve a problem in the county. In September, we got a notice that no, we're going to leave it like it is, split use C1 R2, but give us a little C1 piece. It would really be accommodating to the prospective buyers to leave it all C1 like you had said in June. If you don't, if you go back with the September note, that's okay. It works for us. But this is an opportunity to fix something that's going to have to be fixed in the future when it goes forward, because they're going to have to get it rezoned for their use. So thank you.
Aaron Benson, YBS Ball, 954 Main Street, it's R9 GSB 0005. As you most likely know, this is location, the prior location of the Daleville Fire Station. While the current zoning of the property is residential, for R2, the building and improvements and sort of use of the property are obviously commercial in nature. The current R2 zoning does not allow for reasonable use of the commercial property. It's an institutional building with paid parking, 6,000 square feet, and it's on Main Street in Daleville. So in order to preserve and revitalize the property owner is seeking C4. This will allow the Maryland Maritime Heritage Foundation to establish headquarters in Galesville to allow for the repurposing of the fire station to create a facility. What the Maritime Heritage Foundation seeks to do is devote itself to educating Maryland Maritime Heritage and teaching the skills necessary to maintain both outdoor storage is only allowed in the core zoning district. Property you're speaking with. That outdoor storage is inherent to the proposed maritime use of the property as, and the Maryland Maritime Heritage Foundation could not. The headquarters cannot be located in application without this application. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, the next three is David Plott,
David Plott,
Buzz Winchester,
Buzz Winchester,
and David Harris.
and David Harris. Come on down to the front if you're in attendance. Remember to say your name and the property you're talking about or the change number.
Is David the one virtually?
No, she is.
Oh,
Buzz, whenever you're ready.
Good evening, my name is Buzz Winchester, I'm the president of the Maryland, excuse me, the Western Improvement Association, which is the civic association for Galesville. The property that I'm testifying on is located at 954 Main Street. Its change number is BZ-49 DSD 005. Most of you probably know this, but Galesville is a small waterfront village. We like to think of ourselves as a gem in Anne Arundel County. The issue here is that the new purchaser of the property wants to put in a museum. And in order to do this, he claimed that he wants to change it from residential to commercial. We want to thank the stakeholders committee, we want to thank the Office of Planning and Zoning for agreeing with the West River Improvement Association that this proposed use could be accommodated by R2 zoning. The request this is important because why would a property owner who claims to have a museum want to change it to commercial when it can be accommodated under R2 zoning? In addition to that, he wants to make it C4. Those of you who are familiar with the zoning, C4 is heavy commercial. You can find it in Parole, you can find it in Edgewater, you can find it on Ritchie Highway. This is entirely inappropriate for a small village like Galesville. We spent years putting together an envisioned Galesville plan that would make this an ideal village for the future. And this change would make a dramatic change in Galesville. Bear in mind, properties sell all the time. The present owner of the property, if he got C4 zoning, could sell the property tomorrow. And imagine trying to place Ritchie Highway, Parole in Galesville. The other is that C1, if the property owner decides, oh, I don't want C4, I want to use this, I'll bring it down to C1. Again, we're familiar with what happens. When properties change their zoning, this can be used as a precedent to change it in the future. So we could have additional properties being rezoned. This summer, we decided to go to the citizens of Galesville and ask them if they wanted commercial zoning. Over 80% of Galesville, in the middle of the summer, many people were on vacation, in the middle of the summer, said, we want this to stay residential. Nobody said they want it to be commercial. So I appreciate the time to give you our side of the story, and if you have any questions, we'd be happy to answer.
Mr. Winchester, I have a question. Are you representing yourself or do you represent who are you representing?
I'm the president of the West River Improvement Association, and based upon the results of our petition, I think it's represented at over 80% of Galesville as well. And perhaps even more than it. We had 18% one.
What I would like to happen, you can provide us written testimony. If the West River Association would like to give us written testimony, please do that.
And we have done that to the Staples Committee, and we will do that in addition.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
David Harris,
David Harris,
or David Harris.
you might not. He emailed that he missed it, but you might not.
Okay, the next three speakers, Matt Johnson,
Matt Johnson,
is it Shy Lindley,
Shy Lindley,
and Tony Coopersmith.
and Tony Coopersmith. And I believe Shy is on Zoom. So I'll be able to assist you with that once your time.
Mr. Johnson?
Thank you very much, and my name is Matt Johnson, I'm a resident of the Mayo Peninsula, but also the executive director of Arundel Rivers Federation, your water quality river keepers for the Southwest and Road River. First off, thanks so much. Oh, thank you. But also please clap again for the citizens on the Stakeholder Advisory Committee and on the Planning Advisory Board and all of your public servants who put so many hours into this plan. It's a really good plan. There are just a few areas that I wanted to highlight tonight. I think I was told that I got 2 minutes per. I'll try to do it quicker than that. But for the Planning Advisory Board, you do have written testimony from Arundel Rivers Federation, but I'll highlight specific parcels. First, I'll just say me too, on the Galesville Old Town Firehouse. We don't need commercial highway in Galesville. Commercial highway can allow up to 85% impervious surface cover. Impervious surfaces lead to more stormwater, which damages the rivers. So no to commercial highway in Galesville. The next one is a pretty big one for Arundel Rivers Federation. We really appreciate the change in open space that has occurred across Region 9. As you saw, we've gained a lot of open space. One place where we haven't, Glebe Heights, the forest at Glebe Heights on the Mayo Peninsula. After being told by the county multiple times that the forest at Glebe Heights deserved the highest protections under the county law because it was a forest capable of sheltering interior bird species, the most sensitive forest that we had, the applicants came back and said, well, we're not going to ask for a waiver to the law. We're going to ask for an upzoning. Thankfully, the SAC and OPZ did not recommend that upzoning to give the applicants the ability to build more houses. They said, let's keep it where it is. Well, Arundel Rivers is saying, let's go down. And actually, I'm sorry, the SAC said, let's go down. Let's protect the forest at Glebe Heights. It's one of our most sensitive forests that we've got. Let's make it residential light density. Okay, so that's lower zoning. We say, go to the code and use open space. The open space conservation overlay in the county code actually says specifically to protect forests of interior dwelling species. That's exactly what the county said is there. So we have the solution in the code, and we're asking you, the Planning Advisory Board, to rezone the forest at Glebe Heights to that. And I'm sorry for the number there. That is MYO0001. And I know that you have the Gales one. The last one that I'll talk about is Mayo Ridge Marina, MYO0006, I believe A, B, and C. This is a mixture of M2 and R2 zoning, and the landowner, as I understand it, is requesting R22 on one of the parcels and R5 on the others. Thankfully, the SAC and OPZ recommended no to R22, the highest density residential you can have in Anne Arundel County. But Arundel Rivers said, let's be careful. Let's not go with R5 here. Let's keep it the way that it is, because we need to be careful. It's the critical area right there at the Mayo Ridge Marina, and the critical area there limits the amount of impervious covering to 15%. But R5 does not. We go above and beyond. So rather than create a conflict and an expectation of more development and more impervious surface in the critical area, let's stick with the existing zoning there at Mayo Ridge Marina. And then the last thing that I'll say is in the letter, we pointed out the consistency changes. Planning and zoning did a lot of consistency changes where they said, hey, there's a wetland in the middle of an R1, a neighborhood, right? For consistency, that wetland's always been open space, but let's make it R1. Just so that it looks like the surrounding neighborhood. We think that's a policy mistake. We don't think that that's what Plan 2040 intended to do. Whenever Stuart Pittman signed that plan to protect the environment, we don't think that that's what the Green Infrastructure Master Plan, which sought to conserve land, intended to do. We think that it's an unintended consequence. The second you go from open space to say R1, you're giving that landowner an expectation of a development right. That expectation isn't real, the wetland or steep slope or somewhere else that really cannot be developed. So rather than create that conflict, that inherent conflict, please take a very careful look at the consistency changes, and no, I don't have specific numbers for you. There were so many of them, but across the board, that policy change is very concerning to Arundel rivers. Thank you very much for your time.
I believe Shay Lindley was next, and that Shay is online. So give me 1 second here, remember.
In the meantime, Jessica. Can you hear me? Sorry, I have a question for Matt, please.
Okay, 1 second here.
Mr. Johnson? Question from Elizabeth. She's online. She's at one of our board meetings. Go ahead, Elizabeth.
Thank you. You were referring to CZ R9 MY0 0006C, correct?
There's A, B, and C.
There's A, B, and C. One of them is R22, and that's actually a good point. On the table that I downloaded online, none of them are listed as having R22. They're listed
Exactly.
as R5.
That's my point.
But on the map, and at least the intel that I have from SAC, is that there was a request for R22 on one of those parcels. If someone can correct me, that's fine.
Hi, Jessica Levy from the Office of Planning and Zoning. You're gonna hear from, the representative of this property in a minute, but I'll just take, an opportunity to say that originally they did submit an application for R22. Since then, they heard from the public, they heard from the SAC, and they revised their application to request a split of R5 and MA2. So you'll hear more about that proposal in a bit. But for a second, I believe the next speaker is Shay Lindley.
Wait, but Jessica, hold on a second. Sorry, because the current zoning is split R2 and MA2.
That's correct.
And they're requesting, let's just go with C, they're requesting all R5.
Yes, so it's split into 3 separate change numbers, Mayo, 6A, B, and C. And that is because, the way that the map works is that it's being recommended to change from a zoning district to a zoning district. And so for that purpose, I had to coordinate with our lovely folks in research and GIS. And so to make it clearer to them, I had to say, okay, on piece A, we're gonna go from zoning district 1 to zoning district 2. On piece B, we're gonna go from zoning district 1 to zoning district 2, and so on. So that's why it's split into 3 pieces. The application was just one application, Mayo 6. It's just in 3 pieces for the different zoning changes.
Okay, appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay. Oh, I see David Harris is online. I apologize, David. I am going to go ahead and give you permission to talk. Sorry, this is out of order. Sorry, Shay. David, can you do me a favor and see if your permissions have changed and you can unmute yourself and provide your comment?
Hi, my name's David Harris. Can you hear me?
We can. David, give me just 1 moment and you'll have 2 minutes. All right, David, the floor is yours whenever you're ready. 2 minutes.
Thank you. I'm calling on behalf of our Edwin A. and John O'Crandall regarding our property in Galesville. It's at 1014 East Benning Road. Our ID was CZ R9 GSV 0401. What I'm writing about is our application request was to eliminate the split zoning between of the R2 and W2 and make it all W2 as the OPZ and SAC recommended for various other applicants that are part of the 13 plus acres of the W2 zone property in Galesville.
We feel that our request is in line with the Plan 2024. And it also abides by the goal of the BE 4.2 to as well as the goal HE2, which is to attract, retain, and expand upon the diversity of businesses and industries in the area, and for the income and tax basis, as well as for the B 4.2 goal, which keeps the maritime industry in the area. And I also wanted to point out, even though based upon what the county has listed as, I believe it was 0.64 acres, with about a third of the property that we have as the R2 zoning, which we want to make W2. After you remove setbacks and the big driveway that goes through and the wetland space that we cannot do anything with on the property, it's only allowing us to use 0.2 acres more as the W2. So it's actually not as big as it looks that we're being granted, because we only can use a very small portion of 0.2. And as we all have seen, anyone around there or who has waterfront property, I mean, we're a marine contractor and we need this waterfront access. And yesterday was an extreme high tide, and a lot of others lately. And if we had this additional 0.2 acres where we could use for the W2 in the higher areas, we could park our cars, employees could park the cars up there, and it would also free up where cars get parked down on the W2, because we try not to impede on this R2, because any actions by us for the purposes that we operate under wouldn't be allowed. And so we just asked that to go with like the SAC had recommended and grant full W2 on that. And I thank you very much.
David, I have a question.
Oh, sorry, David, I took away your ability to talk, but I just give it back because our chair has a question.
Are you there, David?
Yes, sir.
Can you submit a site plan on the work you've done showing that acreage is just 0.2?
I did that in a letter I sent this morning to show that. I sent it through the link to the PAB. It's like a 5-page letter. It's on page 5. I use the county.
Money. So it's not with the board right now, but they will get access to it soon.
Okay,
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
you're welcome.
All right, next up is Shay. Shay, I don't see you on the call. If you are on the call, please use the raise hand function. It is most likely under reactions in the bottom of your screen. Shay, I'm not seeing you on the Zoom. I don't think you're in the building. But if you are on the call and we pass you by right now, feel free to use that raise hand feature and I will come back to you at a future moment. Given that there's no movement on the Shay front, I think our next speaker is Mr. Coopersmith.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Tony Coopersmith, and I'm here on behalf of Ava Ridge Properties LLC and the owner, Gloria Bohan. I'm here to speak in favor of the Mayo Ridge Marina proposed rezoning. This is 1293 and 1295 Mayo Ridge Road, Edgewater, CZ R9 MYO 0006. And they're the 6A, 6B, and 6C. And the first thing I'd like to do is to address this issue of the R22. So I'd like to clarify, there is no R22 that is proposed as a part of this rezoning. You can go on the PAB draft map viewer and you can zoom in on this property and it'll show you the proposed R5, the proposed MA2, and there's no R22 that's proposed. When the application was originally submitted close to a year ago, there was an R22 component to that, but when the owner pulled the team together of myself, an architect and an engineer to really study this property and what would be best here, we quickly moved away from the R22 scenario, recognizing that that's not an appropriate rezoning designation for this property. So there's no R22 being proposed. The second thing that I'd like to emphasize is what a unique property this is. Unlike a lot of other marinas in the area, this one is substantially undeveloped. You have a boat ramp, a dock, and a small office, and that's about it. The property is set up above the water and slopes down to it, and our vision for the property is to preserve this unique sense of space by having green space, some walking or exercise areas, continued access to the waterfront where the boat ramp is, and some diverse housing options there with a modest increase in density. So with that, I will pass this along to the project architect, Chris James.
The next three names are
Chris James,
Chris James,
Leonard Rudo,
Leonard Rudo,
Tim Mark.
and Tim Martin.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you tonight. Excuse me. My name is Chris James. I'm here on behalf of the owner of the Mayo Ridge property and the three adjacent residential lot. I'm following Tony's comment. And I just wanted to give you a brief overview of our concept in coming up with this design. We heard from the owner that her intent is not to add intensity of use to this, but their goal is really to beautify, restore the property to a previous state. So a lot of this really is a landscape component. Our office really looked at a lot of this being in the critical settlement area as a landscape component. So a couple of our goals, our intent was to develop a concept that improves the land, being mindful not to add intensive uses that would contribute to noise and traffic congestion, develop a concept that is restorative in nature for the vegetation and habitat within the critical area. And the land within the critical setback be dedicated to creating a rich landscape with walking paths. We also intended to develop a concept with small scale residences, which can be designed to stay consistent with the architectural character of the surrounding community. We also intended to develop a concept that shows how the site can become a link for the surrounding neighborhood and the waterfront via the following potential strategies. Opening up the views through the vegetation at strategic points so that the surrounding community gets a sense of the opening out to the water. Possible active outdoor uses such as park, exercise equipment, walking trail. So not an intensive amount of use. And also possibly on the MA2 lot, small scale community building or clubhouse amenities that can be used. So thank you for the opportunity to speak.
Leonard Rudo.
Leonard Rudo, you're here. Let me check if you're online.
Is Tim Martin?
And, okay. All right, Leonard, I'm not seeing you on the Zoom. If we missed you, you can just use that, raise hand feature and we'll come back to you. In the meantime, Mr. Martin.
Good evening, my name is Tim Martin. My address is 2661 River Road in Atlas, Maryland. First of all, thank you for your service, to the county, volunteer, the planning advisory board member. I'd like to briefly discuss the Road River Marina application CZR9MYO 007 A, B, and C. I represent the owner of Road River Marina and previously testified to stakeholders advisory. I'd like to provide some context regarding the request. The proposed zoning line changes on 007A, B, and C are intended to follow the historic uses and existing uses on the property. 007A is currently split zone MB and R2 and has a historic marine use pier currently embedded in the MB zoning. There is a pool that is in the MB zoning as well as a structure that is split zone R2 and MB. The intent of the realignment application is for A is to realign marina zoning with more historic uses. 007B, number 3926, both the proposed zoning line adjustments tend to follow long-term existing land uses. There is no intent for intensification, is actually removing a portion of the MA2 zone and converting it to R2. 007B 3942. This is another split zone property where the intent of the application is to align the zoning with the current uses. Both have historically been stored on the property as well as part of the operations itself. The owner does not have any intent to intensify the uses. The intent is to simply align the zoning with current uses. I'd like to conclude by pointing out that we submitted a petition with 44 signatures from people in the approximate area that are in support of the application as part of the testimony submitted. Thank you for your time.
Okay, the next three,
The
Brian,
next three are Connor,
Paul Viera,
Paul Viera,
Sherry Dickerson.
and Sherry Dickerson.
First person, Paul, is online.
Good evening. My name is Brian Connor. I'm the owner of Road River Marina. And I have put in an application, as Tim indicated, for some zoning line adjustments on my three properties that he identified as the CZR 9MYO 0007 A, B, and C. Basically, just wanted to let the council know that I personally went to all of my neighboring residents from Germantown Road, White Marsh Lane, Carl Wharf, and also Cato Creek. I took my application that I had intended or was asking for the zoning line adjustment to be consistent with what I'm be doing today. I own several properties in Road River, 15 properties adjacent to Road River Marina on Germantown Road. And I went to each individual that is on the list that I uploaded onto the county process website, showing all the customers with their address and their signatures. And I did put on the application, on the list of people that did not live there, or their houses was kind of abandoned. or they wasn't, in favor. We had a couple, we had a few that wasn't, said they would consider it. Most of them were new residents to the community. And I did my due diligence to explain. My business has been there for, since 1890. Germantown Road, River Marina, has been owned by the Belkey family since 1890. I've been there over 40 plus years. So I appreciate you the consideration, on the application that the county has, looked, favor on my application. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, Paul, I heard you're online. All right, Paul, I'm gonna switch your permission, so you'll be allowed to talk. Feel free to unmute yourself, and whenever you're ready, you'll have 2 minutes. Just give me a second to grab the iPad. All right, all you.
Hi, do you hear me? Do you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Hi, my name's Paul Farah, and I'm here to urge you not to upzone 3920 Germantown Road. I own a house about 150 feet away from that property. The staff's original recommendation was not to upzone the property, and that was the correct outcome. In changing its recommendation, the staff cited the petition that you just heard Mr. Connor and Mr. Martin discuss. Mr. Connor and Mr. Martin have overstated the impact of the petition considerably. There are 36 signatures on the petition, and 15 of those signatures are Mr. Connor's. He signed once for each of the properties he owns in the neighborhood. As for the remaining 21 signatures, many of the so-called neighbors live more than a half mile away from the house, or rather from the property that's going to be upzoned. Tellingly, none of the immediate neighbors along the water, the people who will most be affected by the upzoning, signed the petition. In addition, the staff's revised recommendation fails to acknowledge the many special privileges that the county has already accorded the property. In a document I submitted, I have pictures of what the property looked like 25 years ago and what it looks like now. 25 years ago, the property was a charming waterfront cottage set deep in the woods with a simple private pier, which was consistent with the rest of the neighborhood. Today, there is a 5,000 square foot mansion there with a swimming pool. All the trees between the house and the water have been chopped down, and there's a massive commercial pier out front. These changes have come about because the county partially upzoned the property in 2011, approved a variance in 2014, and imposed only a small fine when the trees were cut down without a permit. Enough is enough. No more upzoning, no more special treatment for some neighbors. We need to preserve the character of our neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I do want to let everyone know you submitted a handout with your registration for test or your pre-registration for providing testimony. That was provided to the board and will be a matter of public record. I just, as everyone in the room can see, the computer running the show is up here. It'd be hard for me to do it. Next up is Mr. Griffin, I believe.
Thank you. I'm Sherry Dickerson. I am here to speak on a couple matters. Actually, first, I'd like to address the change to my property from W2 to R1. This change is not consistent with zoning of properties to the right or left of me. Both have industrial or commercial zoning, and I ask that I maintain my current zoning of W2 light industrial. The change number for that property is ZZR9 SDS 1126. I also ask that you maintain the current zoning for my neighbor to the right of me as which is 4820 Atwell Road. My understanding based on the map is that you're planning to upzone that property. Right now, Atwell Road is not really situated to accommodate additional, trucks. And so with that in mind, I also want to address, on behalf of my neighbors and myself, my concern with the request to change 71 light industrial zoning to maritime zoning at Discovery Village, which is application CVR9 SDS 0400. I respectfully request and truly hope you recommend the zoning remain W1. This upzoning to a commercial marina would increase traffic, noise, and various uses that would drastically change this community. The requested zoning would change the character of our neighborhood. It is a significant change and would allow a major increase in activity and uses on the property. The property does not support further development. It is a low elevation and floods during high tide. Shady side of the peninsula with substandard infrastructure. There are always fatal road accidents far too often along Shady Side Road. Bringing more outside traffic with boat trailers to the undersized roads and after the port is not in keeping with Plan 2040. One of the key goals of the region is not to add more development and traffic congestion to the peninsula. There's one road in and one road out of Shady Side. We are asking that you not approve this application and keep Discovery Village from W1 at W1, which is in keeping with our community. I also have a signed petition from members of our community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up,
Bill Hager,
Bill Hager,
Ronald Trunk,
Ronald Crump,
and James Glasgow.
James Lascott,
Here.
Good evening. We hearing? Okay. My name is Phil Hager, Hager Land Use Consulting. I'm here this evening to talk about two items. I will cover them under separate time items, which I believe Jesse is getting ready to do. Yeah. Thank you for this opportunity to provide testimony. I'm going to be covering first the property at 4804 Atwell Road in Shady Side. This is an approximately 7-acre waterfront property fronting Parish Street known as Discovery Village. The property is currently zoned W1 Industrial Park. This designation does not fit the property and does not fit the neighborhood. It is not an industrial park. There are no industrial parks anywhere in this vicinity. And in fact, it's an isolated piece of industrial zoning. From a consistency standpoint, it's an anomaly and it does not fit. In terms of concerns about what could happen in the neighborhood, I'd be far more concerned about what could happen under industrial zoning versus what is being requested as maritime. The property currently includes two large structures, a boat ramp, bulkheads, piers, docking areas, and expansive parking areas. In fact, the majority of the site is impervious. The property owner is interested in attracting tenants to this area to encourage reinvestment in property, to increase its attractiveness to the area, and is a contributing element to the neighborhood. The property is surrounded by water on three sides. Article 18 of the county code defines marina as a facility located along the shoreline that has docks, moorings, supplies, and other services for watercraft and watercraft passengers. That certainly describes this property. This site has all the characteristics of a maritime property. It walks like a duck, it quacks like a duck, it wants to be a duck, let's put it on the water. As some of you know, the county has had an active presence at this property, with the county boat ramp and the county recreational facility through a long-standing lease arrangement with the property owner. Changing the zoning of the property will not negatively affect that situation. The county will continue to be able to do what it has been doing. And in fact, reinvestment at this site will actually be beneficial to the county and its users, since it will contribute to the enhancement of aesthetics and overall appearances. And it may also serve to facilitate increased opportunities for public-private partnerships in the future. OPZ has indicated since the last SAC meeting that they support MB. The request originally was MC. I think that the desired uses that I've discussed can be accommodated through the designation of MB, maritime general commercial. If the PAB were to concur with OPZ's recommendation, we would be content with that designation. Arguably, that designation is even more consistent with the neighborhood and the surrounding uses and the surrounding zoning. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a second. You want to speak in another property? You want me to cover it now or you want to wait?
Is it in Shady Side?
No.
Wait. Okay. Ronald Trump.
From.
My name is Ron Kroll. Parcel question 701. My name is Ron Kroll. The parcel in question is 5701 Gill Churchton Road, Churchton, Maryland. My son and I purchased this land with the main intent of children, my grandchildren, living a small business or two on 4.5 acres of commercial land that they proposed to turn into residential. We discussed it quite often, and so far the main businesses that come up are Dunkin' Donuts and Starbucks Coffee. We strongly object to this rezoning to residential, as there is 15 acres behind that we own that is residential. And thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is James Glasscock. I'm a partner of the owner of NYO 001 Levi's Drive. And the partners, we've owned this property since 1989, and we've all grown old. So today, it's a good thing. Trying to develop the property since that time. I've seen the two zoning recommendations for this property. One, R1 to remain R1, as this board proposes, and the other is to go downgrade to RLD as the SHC proposed. We, as the owner, proposed to change zoning property to R2. This property currently abuts R2 zone property and therefore would be consistent with the neighborhood. We make this proposal not to double the potential lot yield, but to develop a similar lot count as now proposed on the current R1 plans. By using the cluster option for the R2, the lots are all smaller, there would be significantly less disturbed area than the cluster option in the R1 provides. The owners feel that this would be a fair and just compromise between the R1 that now exists and the virtual no development as advocated by other groups. This would provide the county with market price units, of which is definitely a need, and the increased tax revenue that comes with the new unit. This proposal would also save the vast majority of the forest that comes with these new on our property. Right now, there's more forest on the property than there was when we purchased it back in '89. If the property were allowed to be developed for this purpose, using the cluster option of the R2 zone,
at less than the maximum density, which the owner fully support, there would be more undisturbed forest on the property than existed in 89, as I said before. We consider this a unique way for the owners to be somewhat compensated for their long stewardship of the property and for the forest to remain fully intact, except for a relatively small portion on the edge of it along the Heights Drive. And we welcome the opportunity to further discuss this with the board. Thank you.
Thank you. Bill?
Bill? Or sorry, Mr. Hager.
And after Phil, Henry Mueller. And then looks like Matt Minahan.
So sorry, after Mr. Hager will be Henry, I'm sorry, what was that?
Henry Mueller and Matt Minahan.
Henry Moore and then Matt Minihan.
All right, very good. Again, Phil Hager, Hager Land Use Consulting. I'm here to talk about a property that we have not discussed before. This is a new request. It'll become obvious in my comments why this is new. The subject property consists of 14 individual parcels within 5 separate tax accounts and 5 different addresses on Bay Ridge, Mayo, and Blue Ridge Road. The 3 roads form a rough triangle and the subject property is situated within. The property is currently zoned C3 as is much of the area along both sides of Mayo Road in this corridor, and there is a C4 property not far away. The subject property has been part of the holdings of the same company for quite some time. However, there's new leadership. In fact, that new leadership is now about a week old. And one of the first things that they did, which I think is very significant, was to reach out and contact me about the redevelopment of this property. The existing structures are unattractive, they're in poor physical condition, and the property is substantially underutilized. The tire store is dated and in dire need of attention. The existing residential structure is non-conforming and awkwardly accessed. Both of these structures have been the subject of community complaints. Fixing this area is long overdue. The exhibit package, which was distributed to the Planning Advisory Board, is illustrative of this. It's a clear situation where a picture is worth 1,000 words. The new corporate leadership is interested in completely redeveloping this property. As part of the redevelopment, they are respectfully requesting that the 14 parcels be rezoned to C4. Rezoning the property to C4 will facilitate the redevelopment of the property. The additional uses allowed in this district and the increased flexibility of bulk regulations will be important in terms of being able to redevelop the property. This is critically important as we search for a quality tenant and we look to find the type of person who would be a community, a credit to this community. This request is consistent with the local roads, their functional classification, and traffic volume. It is consistent with the 2040 land use and will contribute to the aesthetic improvement of the area, in terms of creating a community commerce center. It will eliminate an existing eyesore and replace it with new uses that will be community enhancing opportunities for employment. Thank you.
Mr. Hager, I have a question. Current zoning on that property
Current zoning is C3.
and the size of the property?
It's a little less than an acre. But it is comprised of 14 parcels. Thank you, Gil. Okay.
My name is Henry Miller. I'm the CEO of Field of Trade for nonprofit covering charity in Deal, Maryland. I'm not going to talk about rezoning issue of the giving permission to talk about the community for Deal, Maryland, the South Africa. I would like to welcome you along to the thank you for taking time out of your schedule to show your support for the South County area and represent our area with the community. My testimony involves the lack of in the associated resources where neighbors over in Deal, Maryland.
And, I retired from, Postal Service headquarters after, 20, I worked with the government for, 40 years, and, I was a psychologist and economist and a program manager. And since I retired, I decided to devote the second half of my life to serving God and my community. And the community service to do that. I've had a lot of experiences in my life, and I've been very blessed by God in doing those things that he wanted me to do. I was I written 4 books, non-profit books, non-fiction books, and also I was in 3 movies in DC in filming. Before I describe the specific plans for the communities that I wanted to go, I want to share the mission and vision for the entire for the entire South County community that come together for education, support, and provide services and programs that are linked to all individuals, not just seniors, and strengthen the foster our regions to go to practice all of it, all our needs respect the power of support and joy grow. I think the facility will the meeting room for food and a cage and a game room for children. There are carpet games, board games, and meeting in the community. And along with that, our page will be a full-time video center location in educational film, that documentaries on American history, the Constitution, and inspirational content, which will provide a background for children to learn more about the great country we have. The vision is to build a thriving community center. Along with the meeting rooms will be a thrift store that offers affordable goods while supporting sustainability. We're recycling good quality goods and high quality clothing. It's not going to be a good loan, it's going to be a better services include counseling, job research, assistance, transition, for children to support mental health and wealth. There's special programs for seniors, providing social activities, health resources, and community connections, internship opportunities for high school students to gain experience in planning, business, and community service, and for volunteers to contribute in meaningful ways as volunteers in the community service. Okay. I'm going to just say that there's a community, I'm on LinkedIn. I have complete planning details for all my committees that I'm planning to establish, and they're so they need the Southern Arundel County Community Center, and it's doing through development, committee schedule, and community updates. And they'll have to take details about the programs and the activities to serve. And we need to help to provide planning of this community center. And we're and provide your input. All the meetings will be on Google Meet. And we have leaders who will support you. I will be involved in all of the establishments of the initial meeting. And then our leaders will take over from there.
This is, Mr. Minahan.
My name is Matt Minahan. I'm one of the 15 of us who were on the Region 9 Stakeholder Advisory Committee. I want to just speak on behalf of all of us in appreciation for the work that the staff did to support our work on this project. This is a hugely complex topic. We thought we knew something about it. We discovered how little we knew. We were very, very dependent upon the work of the Office of Planning and Zoning team. So big thanks to Christina Pompa, Cindy Carrier, and Michael Stringer, and Eric Kettering, and Jeff Levy. They did all the heavy lifting for us. OPZ Director Jenny Dempsey has organized a fabulous team. And I'm going to say, as a taxpayer, I'm really proud of what they do for us. And I think they have served us incredibly well. We did all this work in 9 meetings. And they did all the staff up behind it, prepped us, taught us, educated us, gave us recommendations, which we were free to follow through. And thanks to the PAB for all the work you guys do too. So one big round of applause, please, for the OPZ staff.
Williams.
Next up is Bob McWilliams and Robin Thompson.
If you didn't sign up to speak, we will let you speak once we get through this list.
Hello, I'm Williams, and I live at 807 Shady Oaks Road in Shady Oaks. And our property is being rezoned from open space to RLD, not necessarily opposed to that. However, I do have some sympathy with what the river keeper said, that making these kind of changes just for the sake of consistency can have some effect on the land. For instance, our property does have a wetland zone. And changing the zoning in this way may affect those things, and may affect the character of the property. And so there are several properties in Shady Oaks that are all being zoned from open space to RLD. And Shady Oaks is a very small community. There's only one way in, excuse me, one way out. And so I think it's important to make sure we aren't changing the character of the community with these changes. The next thing I'd like to speak to is the marina that we have in Shady Oaks. Presently, that marina is zoned R2. The proposed change is to change it to MA2, like commercial marina. Part of the problem with that may be that MA2 allows things like sales of rental watercraft, restaurant, tavern, sales of fuel, groceries, fishing and watercraft, accessories and supplies. And the current marina presently has none of that. It's just split. And as a result, if you change the marina to allow all of those uses, that can fundamentally change the character of Shady Oaks, as well as that marina as a whole. So I'd also like you to take a look at that. And then the final question I have is with respect to assessments. Some of the upzoning, I'm wondering if that would affect our assessments in the future. Thank you very much. I appreciate all your work.
Robin.
Robin Thompson.
Good afternoon.
or evening. My name is Robin Thompson. I live at 217 Urban Avenue. Deal on this lot. I am here. This is a home run. Right? But I got one thing or two. There's about a thing or two. I've learned a thing or two about a thing or two, my friends, because I got pictures. Okay. And my concern with this peninsula here is that within the last 60 days, deal owners, if you have a humongous tree in your yard, raise your hand if you have one of those long-standing homesteading deal trees. All right, five. Okay, I'm talking about the homesteaded deal trees, these humongous trees. 5 have come down in the property in my area, this yard, and that yard, within the last 60 days. Can I tell you what's gone in the ground? I have to. Because whoever oversees the process of land mitigation and allows these trees to come out of the ground before the safeguards are in place, congratulations, you sunk Colleen's speech. I heard Sherry Dickinson and another gentleman on the line. I am with you. I'm done. Money is coming into this county. My grandparents have been here for 40 years, and I'm one of those beach bungalows. Money's coming in. Money's allowing that to happen. Money is allowing that to happen. You know what? I don't need anything from this committee. I don't need anything from you guys. I'm done. And we need life reserve, by the way. No. I've already submitted everything to the board, but you know, it's lost.
Okay, we have
Next up,
Mark Nealon,
Mark Nealon,
Mark Pearl,
Mark Curl,
Kenny Crunk,
Kenny Crump,
Virginia Ferrera.
and then Virginia Barrera. Did Kenny Crump, one of my marks, I know that they didn't want to speak, maybe both. All right.
Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Virginia Barrera. Thank you for all the community here. Thank you so much for your hard work. My property address is 466 Beach Road, Landing. My husband and I have gone visited Tracy Woodley for years and years and years and waited until we saw a property bill on sale on this particular road. We were so happy that we did. The house is very historic, and we love to keep it the way it is. I'm told it's true, but it used to be the old post office was built in 1919. It's probably one of the oldest houses in the ago. The issue with it being the oldest house on the peninsula, and the issue with it being kind of a commercial property, is that it has more than just a house on it. It's got called the garage. I was born because I think it's just more like a barn. It's got sheds on it. It's got a number of other houses on it. Our house is very close to the road because I guess to be a post office, it needs to be close to the road. The biggest issue with it is that it's a house off the Chesapeake. So we get a little bit of view, nice of you in the winter. But the thing is that it's split zoning right now. It's open space and it's RA. And we're just barely, maybe just barely an acre. I don't know if we're really an acre, 41,000 square feet. Not sure if that's an acre. But I know the minimum zoning for RA is 40,000. The minimum zoning for R1 is 40,000. The open space portion of it makes it completely unimprovable. And I don't mean unimprovable like I want to be a second story. I mean unimprovable because I like to put a closet in the post office. It didn't have a lot of closets. So it makes my house, I can't push down even 20 feet. And And so as a result of that, what I was asking for is for the property to be R1. And I think that measures more with the abutting neighborhoods, than neighbors to myself, which are R2, which are R2, which are R2. If neighbors to my north have bigger lots, they are RA, but it makes more sense, they have 4 acres, or 3 acres, or my property, this is barely an acre, so keeping it at, the split zone makes it completely useless. And to make it RA, so I still see you make that positive. And for those who worry about the open space is really good to, but really for recreation parks in that area. I don't intend to put anything in that open space. I love to see the view of Chesapeake as much as everybody else does. So I ask the committee to please go back to consider my request to make the entire parcel R2.
And your request is R2, not.
Yeah, R2. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there, at this time, is there anybody else that would like to speak? Come on down, please.
Hi, I'm Lex Stannis. I own 1710 Cedar Avenue, Sunnyside, Maryland. And I have a question that while looking at the community, when I request to change the zoning.
What was the address, please?
1710 Cedar Avenue, Sunnyside.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm John Crandall. And I'm representing Edward and John Crandall here on that piece of property, on East Bend Road in Jailville. I believe you removed to Air West from commercial or industrial property, it was just partially done. The way, you know, what happens, you know, when all of a sudden you have commercial property and then there's residential next to you, things change on setbacks and everything else. And as far as her, for that property being industrial, it has no effect one way or another to that piece of property, except, you know, unless you fill that piece of property all the way and it's still too small with anything but an office. So when you remove that property from Air West, it's changing all that sector if anything has to be done. And we should look at that, consider that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is John Ball, and I live at 5960 Franklin Gibson Road, Tracy Landing, and we have a farm there. You all, I mean, the group changed part of the farm from open space to RA, and I brought that up, and I met the people, and they were very good about it, and they said, we're just trying to make things consistent. When I was looking at the plan last night, I noticed that they changed the Kinder Farm, which is directly across from the dump, the landfill, excuse me. And it went from RA to open space. What concerns me is when the county bought the Kinder Farm, which is 436 acres, which gives you the change up there that you saw where they took out of RA to open space. The goal was to keep it in agriculture. Something is changing now. Why did they take that farm out of RA and move it to open space unless we're going to have ball fields on that piece of property in short amount of time? That's the question I'd like to know. Good. Thank you very much. Your name, John Ball, and 5960 Franklin Gibson Road, Tracy Lane. Thank you. All right. I also sent a comment. Overall, I think you all did a great job, but, you got the creek, the name of the creek on my farm wrong, not Gracie Creek, so, but you gotta know that. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Julia Miles. I'm the president and CEO of the Southern Animal Chamber of Commerce, and I am here today to discuss Happy Harbor 533 Deal Road. A Deal. It is a longstanding and multi-generational restaurant in Deal, and currently it's a waterfront restaurant, so there is no property around it, so to speak. It's surrounded by water on almost three sides, and then the other side of the building is the actual road, Deal Road, and then across the street is the parking. The parking was changed from, or is proposed to be changed from commercial to residential, which would hinder their progress. We no longer be able to have parking across the street for the restaurant. So I just think that that might have been a mistake, and I just wanted to bring it to the committee's attention so that they could take a look at that again, because I think that that was an unintended consequence, but the owner just wanted to kind of bring that up, and we'll follow up with written testimony as well.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Vivian Gross at 4800 Avery Road, Shadyside, Maryland. I am here to protest against the upgrade of Discovery Building. It was said earlier that anything that looks like a duck, quacks like a duck, is a duck. Well, that property does have water on three sides. Actually, and I'm living right beside it. So the water is around it, yes, it's around it, but it's only the only usage for that property is on one side. So I don't think it fits the marina criteria. It has beautiful, beautiful landscaping around it. Nature is all around it. I don't think it qualifies to upgrade or conversion. So that's my request. Check. But the entryway going into the Discovery Building is one way in, one way out. The road condition is absolutely terrible. It is, if you're coming down Atwell Road, you'll see that we have school there and school kids crossing. I'm just concerned about the congestion, the traffic, that's the Bridge Avenue. I do not understand. So I'm asking the committee to not.
Would anyone else in the room like to speak? Seeing no movement, Mr. Chair, would you like me to check online, see if anyone would like to speak?
With that, written testimony on Region 9 will be accepted until 11:59 p.m. on October the 9th. Written comments can be submitted via the survey link on the agenda for this meeting.
All right, folks, if you are online and you want to provide some comments, you'll be afforded 2 minutes. Please use the raise hand feature under reactions. It should be at the bottom of your screen to let me know you'd like to speak. Unfortunately, I can't really check the chat right now. But if you can use that raise hand feature, it will let me know if you'd like to speak. Thank you. We'll give it just another minute. I'm not seeing any movement online.
November 6th.
Our deliberations with the PAB will be November the 6th.
Do you have anything administrative?
One suggestion I do have for anybody that has submitted any documents to the SAC, if you can, please submit those documents again to the PAB. At this time, Elizabeth, Dawn, do you have any questions? Melanie has a question.
I just want to reiterate, I want to thank everybody again, thank the SAC. I'm Melanie Harding Davis and I am your resident Mayo Peninsula for Region 9 representative here on the PAB. So thank you for your time, for being here tonight. As the chair said, first, if you submit it to the SAC, the PAB is a different body and they have different administrative processes. So please resubmit it so that we can also consider them. I know that the SAC dug in, and I might be a little partial, but I know that they really dug in so hard, especially thinking about this person. Again, thank you, SAC, and thank you for.
Okay, with that, no other requests to speak. We need a motion to adjourn, and thank everyone for coming. Motion to adjourn. So moved. Second. Okay, all in favor? All right, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you.